We're going to get started with this meeting. I'll open it with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance, and then I've got a few announcements, and we'll get on with it. Lord Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening um, knowing the privilege that we can assemble as groups and worship you and talk politics, and we can entertain our feelings and our wants, our dislikes, and our political leanings, Lord. We just thank you that our founding fathers gave us the freedom of religion and also to practice politics the way we choose. Ask that you would be with us this evening as we bring on special guests to enlighten us this evening as to some of the things that are going on and will be happening, Lord. And you're invited. You're invited to this meeting, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with freedom and free this evening. Roberto is he's in. He's our first speaker, and then Paul Wallum. He's going to visit with us also. Jacob is going to be visiting with us. It's been a while since Jacob's been around. Absolutely. And then Jack, he with the city council, he's going to be speaking also. And then Rolf is honoring us with his presence as well. Isn't that great? Ooh. So we're going to try to get this into as close to an hour as we can. So the first speaker we're going to bring up is Norberto, and he'll explain to you some things about, he's the chairman of the Campbell County Republican Party, and he gets the microphone for about 15 minutes. Roberto, come on up. Oh, excuse me, 5 to 10. I just took time away from you. Yeah.
Oh, well, 5 to 10 works perfect for me. Thank you guys for having me. The first thing that I just want to quickly update everyone on, I'm chairman of the Campbell County Republican Party. Want to update you on what's going on with the party. This weekend, we have our county convention. And I explained a little bit of this last time we were together, what this looks like. So last month, we came together to caucus, and at caucus, folks brought forward resolution proposals, bylaw changes. This is basically the sequence of events in which the party governs itself for the biennium, 2 years. So we're meeting this Saturday for convention. This is all the precinct committee men and women, as well as the delegates who are elected at our caucus. We're going to meet first and foremost to talk about and vote on the various resolutions that the body is going to bring forward. And then we're going to select delegates to go on to the state convention. This is how this layering works. We're at the very beginnings of the grassroots level now. We're going to finish that work this coming Saturday, and then we're going to take that on to convention at the state, which will be in Douglas. And I don't have those specific dates on me, but if you were to look up the Wyoming GOP State Convention, you can find that. We will take all of those resolutions that we pass, we'll take them to the state convention and continue the work there. So that's all I really had as far as party updates are concerned. I will give everyone just a reminder quickly. Please, if you haven't already, visit our website, campbellcountyrepublicans.com, and sign up for our mailing list. It's really important. Stay involved. We send out periodic updates on events that are coming up. So, for example, Representative Hageman, she's coming to do a town hall tomorrow at Gillette College at, I want to say, 5 o'clock. And I sent out that email this morning. If you were on that list, you probably got that email. So sign up for our email list. Make sure that you're getting those updates. And then the last thing that I just very quickly want to touch on, I've been having some of these conversations with others, but I just want to impress upon this group the importance of being involved and engaging at the local level. Of course, there's a lot going on right now. We all know what's going on in Iran. We all know what's going on in DC. But more often than not, we don't know as much of what's going on in our own backyard. And I'm here to tell you that what happens in our backyard is just as important, if not more important, than what's going on in Washington. We often wonder, how do all these crazy things happen, whether it be DEI, trans ideology, all these crazy things? They don't just fall out of the sky. They start in rooms like these, in city council meetings, in county commissioner meetings, in board meetings, when good people don't show up. Now, I'm going to tell you, we got to give kudos to a lot of the Democrats and the leftists for being really good about organizing at the grassroots level and getting involved in local government. That is an area that we have to improve on because they're good at it. That's where these crazy ideas come from. And make no mistake, what's happening in Washington right now, all the craziness, it started in rooms like these. The solution to fixing Washington starts by us getting our own house in order, returning to base principles, focusing on what's going on in our communities. It might not feel like a lot in the moment to have a victory here in town when so much is going on either at the state or at the federal level, but I assure you, you give it time, you get those victories, they become exponential, and what happens in Washington 10 years from now can change. But that takes everyone in this room, that takes people in the true grassroots getting involved in their communities and speaking up. Because the other side is speaking up. We need to be there to counter that. Because I believe we've got the majority, but when we don't show up, it seems like the other side does, and they're able to influence policy. They're able to influence direction, culture, and tradition. So I won't go on. I could keep going on this box of mine. This is the hill I'll die on. I just want to encourage everyone, be involved, especially as we're heading into an election cycle that's important to this community, to the region, and to the state. Be involved here, present in this community, more so than you are just on Washington. And with that, if there's any quick questions or comments, I'd be happy to take those. But otherwise, thank you guys for having me here tonight.
Friend asked me if they're not a delegate and they're not a precinct person, can they come to the county convention?
So yes, if someone hasn't been elected a delegate, if they're not a precinct committee person, they can show up. They just cannot participate as a voting member.
Thank you. What Norberto was talking about, getting involved, it is very important. I would say that the people that are, I suppose, allegedly in control are actually dumbing down our population. I had a gentleman walk into my office the other day and he said, I got Affordable Care Act for $10 a month. And I said, well, good for you. Because everything they're subsidizing, when you make more money, you're going to have to pay it back. Isn't that true, Jack? You're shaking your head, yes. That is very true. And he said, no, that's not the case. And I said, yes, it is. You're going to owe that back if you make more money. And then he says to me, well, I'll make sure I never make more money. That's what's happening to us, people. Okay, Paul Wallum, you're next. Come on up.
Thanks, Ed, for letting me come tonight. It's not a campaign announcement or a campaign speech, but I do plan on running again. And the coroner's race has been contested with at least 3 people every session for the last 4 or 5 cycles. So I do expect to have to campaign. What I'd like to give you thoughts to consider is if you have a young person or a retired veteran that would like a summer, not quite a part-time job, but some help putting out campaign signs, it's just very overwhelming for someone with a full-time job with all the campaign events that you have to go through in that concise amount of time and put out all those signs and then maintain them after the windstorms and everything. If you have a young person or a retired veteran, or you yourselves would like just some extra money, you see a young person wants to get involved a little bit in the political side without jumping into the gnashing of teeth and etc. Please contact me. I'd like to maybe speak at the or pass on to you, sir, at your regular meeting as well. The same message. So I've got some business cards with me if you want to contact me for someone you have in mind. It'd be kind of performance based, a dollar amount for every yard sign. If they can secure some bigger sign space, that'd be nice. Maybe on call for sitting in the booth at the county fair is a long process, lots of long hours and stuff, especially when I'm on call 24 hours a day. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I'll talk briefly about how the year at the coroner's office is going. It's been a rough year for suicides already. We're already at 4 for the year. Some of these are pending toxicology, but all the evidence is pointing to those. A lot of concern for young people in the community. We've had a 14-year-old this year, and then we had a young role model who left the community who passed away in a different state, but that still affects here. When young people see a role model, they look up to that it ends up in those troubles. So please pray for the people in the community feeling that stress and whatever perhaps bad ways of dealing with it. Pray against that as well. I can't confirm this. I've heard the hospital is so full they can't even keep them on the 5th floor right now, that they've got to keep some in ER rooms that are available. Please don't pass that around in case it's not true, but it seems we could be headed for a unfortunate year for numbers. The other type of things we deal with, the drug overdoses, are always too high. And some of those are mixed with suicide as well sometimes, of course. So other than that, the vehicle crashes haven't spiked yet. We've had some serious accidents in the community, but haven't come to me, and the violence hasn't come to my office yet. That we've had a spike in last year a little bit. So I don't have anything political to tell you. It's not really a political position. Everyone gets treated the same, with the exception of veterans. If I know they're a veteran, they'll get a flag as they leave their home over the gurney. So I don't get too political, obviously, with my position. That sort of thing you need to be. Everyone has to be treated the same. As far as fiscally, I think I'm very good reputation for being fiscally conservative in the community. And Mr. Mercuri, I think, will back me up on that. It's coming up on, I think, a 4-year anniversary where I did tell the commissioners I didn't need to be considered for a raise, that I'm okay with my salary. And sometimes I regret it. I'm not going to lie. I would say it'd be nice to be making what some of the others got with their raise, but I thought I'm well taken care of. So I appreciate all your help. If you have any questions, I'll be back there if you have any questions now. Otherwise, I'll make room for the next fella. So go ahead, sir.
I would like to suggest that it would be a point of community service to get young people involved. That you don't always have to allure people with money to get things done, and I think it would bless their heart as well.
Any volunteers are appreciated, of course, but I do always feel I hate to burden people. So anyone else have anything before I let the next gentleman come up? I appreciate that. I do try to be kind to everyone. Everyone gets my cell phone number and is told they can tell me, call for help 24 hours a day. And all the religious leaders have been very kind and very prompt to come to their families in need, which is good to see. Ed was on my backup list to go out to the plane crash for the 1-year anniversary. That Gordon Harper took care of himself, since he knows the SO troops that were out there grieving as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Next person is going to be Jacob Dalby. He's going to come up here and give us some words. Here you go, Jacob.
Some of you might remember me, but I ran, let's see, the first one thing I ran campaign kind of was the anti-COVID mandates against the governor. That was I think, pretty successful. Ran for the commissioners a couple of times. Ran against the college board, then ran for the college board. Obviously, I lost that one. Most recently, I think it was 2 years ago, Fortner and I ran the anti-tax campaigns. Again, we were pretty successful with that one. I wasn't planning on running anymore. That's why I kind of backed away from politics. But when I found out Ruben wasn't going to run again, I decided I better run because I've heard some of the names out there that are planning on running, and I'm not in favor of Medicaid expansion, which they all are. So I was always a Republican. I dropped the Republican Party and switched to the Constitution Party. Found out the Constitution Party is exactly like the Republican Party, only more religious. So I dropped the Constitution Party and switched back to the Republican Party. But in all reality, I'm definitely more of a libertarian, with the exception that I support the death penalty for child molesters. I'm a anti-government, anti-tax candidate. The Medicaid expansion, I believe, will be probably a big topic coming up again, constantly. I don't support that. Basically, what the Medicaid expansion will do is give Medicare to low-income people of 19 years old to 60 years old, and I've got a problem with that. If you're low income, get another job. If you can't work, you're probably on Social Security or disability. You don't need more. I've got a wife who's 4.5 months pregnant, and I see her get up and work 18 hours every day, so I have no hard feelings for somebody who wants to sit around stuffing their face and playing video games. So I will fight against Medicaid expansion. I will fight against the nuclear coming to the state. And I will fight against property tax and personal property tax. I do not support that. I support increasing the sales tax, although I do feel bad for the local businesses because I think that could harm them. But it's the only way we'll ever be able to hold direct accountability to our local and state government is by if they're doing something we don't want, we can say the heck with them and go out of state and buy our stuff. Again, I feel bad for the local businesses that will affect, but the local politicians or the state politicians, they do the same thing every year. They run it up us all through the season, and then come election time, they're all about helping us. And then everybody forgets how poorly they've treated us over the past several years. So if we can give them direct accountability while they're ramming it up us, that's the only way we're going to be able to fix it. So I am a third generation rancher. I do not expect anyone to vote for me because of that. Quite frankly, most ranchers are not fiscally responsible. They live off of federal tax dollars. So there's a local rancher running for governor who receives tens of thousands of federal dollars every year constantly. He is totally fiscally responsible. But that's just a point that most ranchers are kind of like farmers. They do not know how to properly manage their businesses. So I do have 3 businesses I run, plus I ranch. One is very successful. The other one is doing all right. And the third one is a slow growing business. So I understand hard work that it takes to operate. I understand how to stretch a dollar, and I understand the hardships that the typical Wyoming citizen endures. I think that's about all I have to say. I'm not looking for any campaign donations. The last couple of campaigns I ran, I was fully self-funded. I'm going to be fully self-funded this go around too. Not that I don't want any hard feelings about that, but I'm just not for sale. My values are my values, and I will fund my own campaign. With that, I also will have, if I am elected, I will have nothing to do with any of the lobbyists in Cheyenne. I don't want their money. I don't want them to take me out to meals like I know they like to do. It's, in my opinion, is a bribery tactic. So, but in ways I could use some help is going door to door or just spreading the word. So, but thank you guys for letting me talk. I appreciate it, and y'all have a good one.
Moving right along. Now, we're going to have Jack Clary, City Councilman Ward 2, come up and address us all. Come on up, Jack.
Thank you. Well, thank you for everybody coming out this evening. I don't have a lot to share, but I do have some important stuff to share at this moment. We are going to start a budget cycle for the city council. First meeting is April 14th at 6 o'clock in the council chambers. All the meetings will be at the city council chambers. The next date, workshop 2, is April 28th. The third workshop is May 12th. And the last one is May 14th. Again, they all begin at 6 and end at 9 in the council chambers. And it'll be televised on GAP TV. Okay. Some of the topics of discussion I've taken exception to, one is they want to raise utility rates. And I don't know if anybody's seen that, heard that, but I know what they're up to. They won't raise them this year because election, right? But I guarantee it'll happen in 26. When I was brought to my attention, I told Administrator Cole, we need to cut this budget by 10% and prove to ourselves that we don't need those rates increased. And I think that's the beginning. I think we need to peel back the onion and see what's buried of your folks' dollars. We need to continue to be fiscally responsible. Anything less than that, I'm not for. I didn't run to give your money away. I ran to represent the people of Gillette, the community, and hopefully get some money back for them. More importantly, honest structure. That's what it's about, honest structure. Again, they already mentioned my next town hall. I do it every quarter. That was my campaign promise, one of them. And we'll continue that until my term runs out, because I think it's very important that everybody understands where we're coming from the city. And all the other candidates I invite from the state, commissioners and school board, they in tune has got a message to send, because there is some things going on that you need to be aware of. So I appreciate if you attended or looked online or do something, because the engagement is a very important part. If we're successful, like Norberto says here, guarantee you we'll be successful in the state. And we can turn this around. But this has got to happen this year, because we got a lot of people up that I think is very vulnerable. And if we have good candidates, we can win. We can get back to the grassroots. So any questions? Yes.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask the question. For those dates you're talking about, can we go to City of Gillette and see those dates online? Okay, so you can, if you forget these dates, you can always go back online and check them out. And they're up there also.
Yeah, that's not the budget. On the website, yes.
what was the reaction of Administrator Cole when you asked for a 10% budget cut reduction?
He didn't really respond. It was my pre-briefing meeting before our city council when I learned of this stuff. And of course, if you know me at all, I've got to say what's on my mind then and make it a point. And that's what I did. Am I going to further that conversation? Yes, I am. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I understand the city is now going back to having pre-council meetings before your city council meetings that are going to be upstairs tucked away and not many of the public knows about it.
Well, in defense, they do put a notice out saying that's happening. In fact, the first one we had was last Tuesday. The newspaper was there and there was a couple of people from the public there. So that's the only way we can do it right now. Are they going to continue for duration? I don't know. Well, things do change. But that's a question you should ask him. Anything else? Well, this is my first one. I guess they used to do it years ago. But what I get out of it is all the council people are there, the mayor, all the department heads. So if you got any questions before the council meeting on any clarity that's required, you get at that point in time. For instance, there's a lot of questions I ask about zoning. Well, the description is not really well in the city agenda. So I'm able to ask the planning people at that point in time, what's going on? Show me. Why do we have to do this? And that helps. And also communication between me and the other 6 on my questions help. It's hard at the council meeting to get them to voice their opinion. If you know how many people speak at the council meetings. Anybody got a guess? I'm not the only one that'll ask questions. Yeah, and that's a shame because we need to talk about this stuff so all the public understands the problems, how we're going to attack them. And also, if you got any disagreements, it needs to be voiced. What I tried to change at one time, and I wasn't successful, I'm not going to give up. Instead of a public comment at the end, it should be ahead of new business. So you can read the agenda and ask questions. Now, what I've got from some, and I'm going to mention names, well, we don't want to be here all night. I says, well, whatever it takes, right? You ran for the office. You needed to adhere to your duties. But again, I have a different philosophy. I have a different way of thinking. I believe the community should not be left out. All these private meetings you hear about, they do happen. But a lot of mine I'm not even aware of as a council person. I get it third hand from somebody else. And that's got to quit. Are they having backdoor meetings against the public? Yes. Are they doing it to the city council people? Yes. Are they doing the commissioners? Yes. Are they doing the cemetery board? Yes. It's infested. But we have got to stop it. And all we can stop is be vocal and engaged. I can speak, but I'm only one. Now, if I had 4 or 5 others, it would make a big dent. But right now, I got one, and then Chris. I can't forget Chris. That's all we got. So if you notice, most of the votes are either 6-1 or 5-2, right? So when you're representing a ward like Ward 2, my ward don't get the full representation because I can't turn things around. I can vote against it or for something that benefits my ward, but I can't get it passed. So I want to explain that to everybody. It's not that a lack of trying, a lack of being available and transparent. I hate that word transparent, but anyway, it is what it is. But we need to change things. So I'm asking everybody here and out in the community, need to look who's running this year, who's up for re-election, and also please vote during the primary. You know, really only 20%, 27% of the people in Campbell County vote in the primary. That's why you can't get nowhere. You know, they turn and run the election, but a lot of the races have 3 candidates. The other one falls out. So if you have somebody like that, you need to vote. So encourage people, give them a ride to the polls, whatever you got to do. but we need to get early voting up. Any other questions?
On my original question. About a decade ago, I wrote for a small newspaper here in town, and I would go to these little meetings up on the third floor, tucked in that room, and I'd write about it. And I was the only person there besides staff and council, and you guys were eating your meal. And things were said in those meetings that were never said downstairs, ever said, ever said. To me, these are private meetings. You're not getting them out there well enough. People will not come to them because they think you do everything down in the council. And this was a promise that you would do everything in the council, not have these meetings again. Even though we've told you, it doesn't matter. People are not going to come. They're not. And this is a disgrace that we're going back to it.
I hear you and understand, but more importantly, disappointing to me, we can't get people to come to regular council meetings to discuss things, ask questions. That's where it starts at. And you know that for a fact. Like that you spoke about the bridge. Excellent alternative. And that has been discussed. But unless people speak to those things that they want to be heard, it's never going to take place. It's not. Back to Roberto's question. We have an issue that the left really wants to attack. How many people show up in the council, in the city council? The whole side is full. How many on the other side? 10th? Well, that tells the mayor, the council people, who cares? Numbers speak. Believe me, numbers speak. Loud voices speak. Facts speak. And those things we need to do. Each and every one of us. Anything else?
I just want to pile on. Primary elections in this state. Those are the elections. Because everybody runs as a Republican. The Democrats run as a Republican. The rhinos run as a Republican. It's boring from August to November. Because the election's over. So I would tell everybody when you're talking to people, get them out for the primary elections. That's when it matters. Just trying to help you out there, Jack.
You also know there's going to be some initiatives you're going to be voting on in November. So that's another reason that people need to show up for the general election and understand what those initiatives are. Ask questions. Okay? Anything else?
In the pre-meeting before city council and public can come, is there any public comment or we just sit and listen to what everybody's saying?
You can ask questions. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not afraid of questions. Well, I'm afraid of the people that don't ask the questions are sitting there stoic. That's what I'm really afraid of. But no, you need to ask questions. I know other boards have pre-meeting meet dinners like that. Same question. Only one person I know that shows up per reg was she used to work for Connie 17, or a reporter. Pardon me? Mary Stroka. Nobody else showed up. And I can't explain it. I don't know why. In fact, you really can get some inside information. I can guarantee you last Tuesday, there was nothing said that was anything on the agenda, except me asking a lot of questions and express my concern what I'm going to do in the council meeting. But I hear you, but I'm 1 of 7. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thank you.
So, we've got, Ralph coming up here next, I believe. And then, by the way, Troy, do you have anything to speak about tonight? We'll give you 5 or 10 minutes, but first we'll bring up Rolf.
Thank you, everybody. My voice. Yeah. So we'll give her just a second here. So I just want to reflect on what Norberto said early on, focusing locally. I think that is excellent advice, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. Local stuff that we need to know. It's very important. This video is from the council meeting on February 17th. It is an exchange between Councilman Clary and Administrator Cole, and it's important. It's the context of what I'm going to talk about.
I got one more question, Mayor. Yes. May I ask? As BWXT comes in this community, what impact is it, negative or positive, on this fund? To me, with the wastewater, somebody's got to pay for this. Is it citizens or is it them? What are we at?
I don't know what their loading will be. I don't think it's going to be very much. It will affect our system growth. So the 0.25%, if we get a big load or a big customer, that would increase and might actually, with these utilities, it's strength in numbers. You have a big utility, you could spread that cost out over a number of customers. The more customers, the better. So I think there's, and honestly, I've looked very preliminary at some of their loads, and they're very reasonable. They're no different than a big hotel or an industrial warehouse type of thing. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on this fund or our other funds.
One other question is,
When I replayed this video, I could not believe that he actually said that. And I asked in the council meeting a week ago if that was the position of this council to pass along the cost of BWXT and industry to the customers. And that drew quite a reaction. And I don't think they appreciated when I used Senator McCune's expression of socialism. They did not like that too much. But that's what this was. They want to spread the cost of BWXT on everybody here.
I got one more question.
Okay. So I drew quite a reaction when I commented. I'm sorry. Center. Okay. I like to hide over here. All right. So I drew quite a reaction from Administrator Cole. He gave quite a rebuttal to my comments at the end of the meeting. So I did hit a nerve, and that was a good thing. I think he really slipped when he said we're going to pass along those costs to everybody. I think that was as you listen, he was kind of stammering and stuttering in that commentary. He mentioned that the load is reasonable. It's like that of a big hotel. By 3 different calculations, one commissioner came up with 20 to 30 million. I talked with the BWXT material scientist. I came up with 20 to 30 million. And a large hotel is 20 to 30 million gallons per year. That's not very much. That's 1,000 homes, each producing 2,000 gallons per month. That's a big number. That's about $500,000 a year. That's what we're talking. That's by my estimate. This is wastewater. Wastewater. Now, good. Yep, good question. So we're talking wastewater, and they did not discuss the cost to connect BWXT to the system, and he hemmed and hawed during his rebuttal to my comments. Oh, they're going to pay for that, blah 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 blah. So I definitely struck a nerve. Rates increased 6 years in a row. 20, you see it up there, 2025. As Jack said, this is an election year. They're not raising them this year. There's a big surprise. The 3-year rate increase occurred in 23, 24, and 25. That was passed. Lundvall, Karlsruhe, Gross, and Cleveland all voted for that increase. Look at the rates of increase. Water usage, 30 to 80%. I mean, water really got jacked up there. Those are big numbers, very big numbers. Electricity is a little less bad. But they're not raising them this year. What do they call it? Window dressing. All right, this is an example. This is a recent council meeting. look at the second line, SNS Builders, $52,000 to put roofs on bleachers. So we're looking at these massive increases, and they're putting roofs on bleachers at Energy Capital Sports Complex. That's wasteful spending. Not much more needs to be said about that. Yeah, this is something they're clarifying. That's the person with the conflict because he's employed by SNS Builders. I think that's what it is, Jack. So it's just showing who the conflict and what the numbers. They made this quite a bit better lately. So he's not getting 304,000. It's just to show it's conflict with him. Yeah. Anyone here will abstain. Good question. Emails. You should see the stuff flying around in emails. There's stuff going on, and I'm going to give one. It's going to be hard to read, so I'm going to just summarize it for you. Anyway, can you kind of read that or no? If not, I'll explain it. At the bottom, Commissioner Ford is indicating to Mayor Lundvall that he's meeting with the Department of Energy. The person I've highlighted in yellow is the nuclear waste director for the DOE. And he's communicating this to Shay about a year ago. And Shay is responding, Gillette is open for business. We want to find creative solutions to expedite permitting. Take away your own conclusions on this, but that should at least raise a question to people. Don't know what the context is, but that's a little bit of a tell. Any thoughts on that, anybody? There's a lot more of this going on. I got any questions from anybody? Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse. It actually held up better than I expected. But
that I've heard that the city, that they have a loan for wastewater treatment they're paying on with high interest rates. And okay. And if they have that, if we're paying interest on a loan, why are we spending money, 51,000 on canopies over sports figures?
That's a good question. They have a loan for that wastewater plant. The interest rate, I don't know if it's high or low, but it had to be done. But again, when they brought this bleacher thing, I voted against it. And I think Chris Smith did as well. But everybody else was for it. It was atrocity that even I was astounded sitting in that chair. I think you gotta be kidding me. In fact, I made a comment, let's put a dome over it. And Jim West comes out of his seat. You heard him. He wants to build a dome over that sports complex. I says, no. I says, I'm just drawing a conclusion. That'd be your next step.
So one quick wrap-up thought, because I want to give Senator Mukuna some time. I did a look through the council minutes 2020 to 2025. By my judgment, I found about in the order of tens of millions, and I'm not making up the number, of wasteful spending on renovations, upgrades, improvements, parking lots at the ECSC playground, millions. And just to go back, and this is what we're getting as a result. I don't think that's right. Any other questions, anybody? In the back. I'm going to go to him.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion here. I think you raised up quite a few discussions about the feasibility, the financial feasibility of these companies. And we were assured by the experts that they were on very good financial footing. If you take all these payments to them, all these subsidies, the $100 million and all that stuff, and you subtract that from where the reference, the baseline that those claims are being based on about their financial stability, what would the numbers look like there? And what if we use that $100 million right here to stimulate the businesses that the locals operate?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I perfectly said. I don't have nothing to say other than perfect. Roberto.
Yeah, just more of a general comment. I think it's a great point talking about the wasteful spending. And it kind of ties into how I was talking about we need to return to, base principles, foundation. There are plenty of things that we're spending money on that we're not saying it's objectively bad. There's room for discussion. However, we have to get the base principles right. If utility rates are rising, if there are potholes everywhere, if we're not able to provide reliable infrastructure, we're failing at the fundamentals. And if you think about it, I work in the private sector. I founded a business and I answer to a board of directors. If I were to fail at the very core functions of my job and then spend money on vanity projects, the board would not be discussing, oh, maybe we'll do better next year. Maybe we need to realign. No, they would fire me immediately. Any board of a private company seeing what was going on, if this city was run like a business, council would be fired immediately for this kind of performance. So that's something we all need to keep in mind because we are, if you think about it, the stakeholders of this city. We are the investors. Our tax dollars are literally being invested and kind of against our will because of the nature of tax. They're being invested into the city. That makes us shareholders. That makes us investors. And we should act like that when we see stuff like this going on.
Well said, sir. Well said.
You had a slide up there that said no data centers. Do you have any comments or thoughts on that?
Sorry. As far as data center goes, they are being touted. They're trying to bring them in left, right. They are heavy consumers of resources, water, electricity. I don't have the proof, so I'm not going to say they raised the rates, but they're like, the allegation is they raise rates of electricity for all users. I used to work in a small data center, and it was probably had 1,000 machines in there, and there were 2 of us that worked up there. So they talk about these employment numbers. I'm suspicious when they talk about all the benefits of these places. They're in these emails. They're trying to bring these things in, data centers, Bitcoin mining, all kinds of stuff. They're trying to bring it all in here. It's not if it is in process. So if you're against data centers, you got to speak up at the meetings, make your voices heard. I want to make sure I give Senator McCune some time. Senator. Yes. Oh, sorry, Paul, I missed you. You, sir, the heavy hitter.
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's talk about other people's money. In other words, your money. And that's what the government does. They keep taking it and taking it. If you noticed on that one slide, wastewater has gone up 80%. Do you know why? It's not regulated. It's low-hanging fruit. We call it the rain tax down in Cheyenne. It's an interim topic to get it regulated, but they can jack it up all they want. There was a big argument with Cheyenne and Laramie over it and what they've done to everybody. And here's Gillette, secretly staying about 5% behind them, but still jacking it up. Your water bill is cheaper than your sewer bill. How's that possible? Does that even make sense? Well, the reason that's happening, so we're working on something in the interim to get them regulated and controlled. Unfortunately, that's the way of utilities. They will take whatever they can get. I want to say that one more time. They will take whatever they can get. That's why they support all the green energy and the goofy stuff.
So they're labeling this wastewater base, but not using that money for wastewater base.
Let's talk about that, man.
I mean, is that true? Is that a way to look at it? We have a wastewater base process, but now we're getting charged more for it, but the extra money is not going toward it.
No, you are absolutely right. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Campbell County had enough money to rebuild the entire sewer system. They had it in the bank. A few grants here, a few gimmies there, they're ready to go. But I guess we need plants along 59 and statues and coverings at Little League baseball stadiums. I don't know. I'm going to move on next. One of the more disappointing things I lived through this last session was House Bill 10. Getting rid of the crap, excuse my language, out of the libraries, or at least getting it moved away from kids. Got put in a drawer. We didn't hear it. You know, there's more things going on with that. We can talk about it later. It wasn't a pizza party, although it was put out that way. Now you got my whole thought process off. So we brought the library thing up. I pulled it out of the drawer. And unfortunately, I'd have 2/3 vote. And I only got 18. But you'll see the bill again. You'll see it again in a non-budget session. And I spoke on the floor quite passionately on it. Because most of them in there don't have a clue what's going on. They don't. Ooh, it's a freedom of speech issue. I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court of the United States of America said that garbage in a library is not a freedom of speech issue. It's an abuse of child and children issue. Yes. And here's the funny thing. A good friend of mine today pointed out, you can go to the library and your kid can look at all that garbage. But if you as the parent bring it home and give it to them, you can be prosecuted. You can be prosecuted. What a great, great thing we live with. And then I want to bring up the rec mill. The rec mill levy, the slush fund from the place other than heaven. It's just waste. They don't even talk about it. Ooh, we have art classes. Ooh, we pay the golf course out of it. Ooh, we don't want you as a voter involved. You might vote it down. And you know what their biggest complaint was? Y'all ain't smart enough to make your own decision. We need to make it for you, and we need to have this money. And look, Gillette is a blue collar town. I love Gillette. But it's not a tourism mecca. You want to come look at the high desert with no trees? How long does it take to do a mine tour in the Rockpile Museum? What's next? You should go to Don's Supermarket and get snacks. But no, it was a brutal session. It was close. And I'm sure we'll see that again. By the way, I did vote for it. I figured you did. And I did not eat pizza. It just was a brutal session. And Jacob, you'll be happy to know I haven't quit on the property tax cuts. I fell flat on my face. It was miserable. 7 to 24. Yeah. Oh, he was in the 24. So, in the interim, because I'm either dumb or don't learn well, I'm going after residential property tax again. And we're going to do it in a different way. And we're working the numbers, but when you sell a home or you buy a home, we can probably charge a 2% sales tax on that. One-time expense will keep the schools in business, those fantastic organizations that produce 42% of third graders who can read at grade level. But hey, Utah's at 40 or 41%, so we're doing great. I digress, but it would be a one-time thing, and it would be at the sale of the home when you had the money to pay it, and then there'd be no residential property tax. And I want you to leave you with one last thought. I have a dream. I have a dream. One day I will own my own meat grinder. Lock, stock, and barrel. So we're going after that 20% cap. We did get it down to 20%. Now we're going after the rest of it. This next round of elections ought to be interesting. Ought to be interesting. And that's where we're going to need y'all to get out in the primaries and help some of these people get over the finish line. Fortunately, I'm a state senator. I don't have to run this time. I will next time, though. That in no way, shape, or form was a commitment. But they're coming after me pretty hard, and the two people they're going to put up against me, I'm not going to quit against those clowns. Yeah. Latest name's Mark Christensen. And Ken, you know. Yeah, it ought to be fun. The last 8 days of session, I was in the newspaper 5 times, all over the state. Yeah, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad, bad man. I want you to decide if we have a rec mill and you to have control over it. There's one other thing we're doing that's kind of exciting. It's an education rec mill. So while you're paying property taxes, and I'll still try to get rid of them, but in the meantime, they'll take one mill off of it and you can decide where to put it towards an educational event. Or so if you want to give it to a private school, you can. If you want to give it to UW, you can. No. Now. Now I got politicians and Pizzagate. Oh, Chetgate. Okay, I'm going to say this out loud, so I may never get reelected. That was one of the dumbest things that we spent a ton of energy on. You know why we do that? And I have to qualify this, it's just my opinion. We got y'all watching $1,500 checks that were written a month before session started. A month before. Wasn't a bribe. But boy, we had investigations. We got the Laramie County Sheriff involved. By the way, he has no jurisdiction over us anyway. But that's okay. We kept the circus going. I mean, a good friend of mine, and I can say this, Senator Bob Ide, I was sitting up with him on the third floor. We were eating lunch, getting ready to go back into session. And they walked up and gave him a check. And then he said, you know, I'm going to go turn this check in. And he did. And he kind of avoided a lot of the fiascos over it. But it was just a campaign donation. Now, having said that, it was a colossal mistake to do it on the floor of the House when Carly Provenza's there with her phone taking pictures. I hide under my desk at every free moment I have there. I'm afraid I won't go to the bathroom properly, and that'll be in the paper. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. Bob asked me, I'm like, hey, we're not on the floor. No. He's sits right next to me, and man, he votes good. So we need to keep him around too. Natrona. Casper.
He's running against you. That just came up on my feed. Did you know that?
Yes.
Christensen appointed to the Wyoming Business Council.
We're going to talk about that real quick too, and I'll be quick about it. The Wyoming Business Council. We had it almost killed. Almost killed. The Senate overrode the veto, went to the House, and lost by one vote. So now we have Wyoming business ready communities. Shovel ready sites. Build it and they will come. Well, That was about 4 years ago. I don't think anybody's out there yet. Data centers. What a scam. The 2 data centers in Cheyenne are huge, huge. And the state gives up close to $200 million a year because they don't pay sales tax. Why?
Makes sense. Make it make sense.
That's how we got them there.
Make it make sense.
It's like the BWXT thing. Please bring your nuclear waste. Bring your nuclear waste here. Hell, we'll pay you for it. And then the one guy we were discussing earlier had a conversation with him over storage. He's like, oh, I'm all for short-term storage. I said, Ken, how long do you think short-term storage lasts?
A couple of thousand years.
He said 2 to 3 years and it'll be gone. 2 to 3 years. No, 40 to 50 is short term. And oh, by the way, when 50 rolls around, then it'll be 60, 70. And now down in Kentucky, Tennessee. Thank you, sir. They're trying to chase them out now. And they didn't have a choice. It got put there after some world wars and some submarine development and ship development. It just got put there. I'm going to let you ask that out loud. No, and I want you to say what NPRA stands for.
What happened with NPRA, National Pro Rodeo Association's great, wonderful relocation?
Ogden Driscoll, they were coming anyway. They bought it. It was lock, stock, and barrel finished. But now we need a museum. And my good buddy Bob Ide voted against it. And he said, I'm the only one in here who was a member of the National Pro Rodeo Association. I just wasn't good enough to stick around very long. But hey, he's against it too. Like I said, it was a bizarre session. We ended up with a marginally acceptable budget, but not really. UW got all its money. The business council had 54 million tucked away and hidden, which they get to keep now. The one veto we did get through was the governor decided he could decide how many full-time employees were in the state, and the legislature should have nothing to do with it. That's 70% of our budget. Bizarre things. But, and I'll close with this, I haven't given up. I'm going to keep going after the residential property tax and find a way to get rid of that horrible, miserable, amoral garbage. And I'm going to own a meat grinder one day. I promise. Okay, anybody have any quick questions? Yes, sir.
You, you alluded to Tennessee, how they're kicking out the nuclear waste people. And I hear all the time here from some people I actually respect a lot, looking at me straight in the eye, that I voted for, saying, we can't stop it. Tell me that's not true.
That's absolutely not true. We can stop it. One of the bills I'm going to personally run next session is the 10th Amendment Protection Act. And just to cover that real quick, 10th Amendment protects us from the government shoving stuff down our throats. We have the ability to say no. Who was a comedian? No, country western kind of guy. Anyway, call me tater salad. Ron White. Ron White got kicked out of a bar and the police were getting ready to arrest him. You know what he said? I had the right to remain silent, just not the ability. But, and that is funny. And I tell that joke to segue into here's what happens. A lot of the agencies and people in Wyoming want federal funding. Federal funding. Guess what comes along with federal funding? Strings. You will do it our way. And they've tried, and hopefully we get Jacob in to keep up the good fight against Medicaid expansion or Medicare expansion. They sneak that through every year in a different bill. And they call it something else. And now they're nibbling. The governor appointed me when I first got down there, probably before he knew me, to the Veteran Suicide Prevention group. I was excited. We were going to sit down and discuss how to keep veterans from committing suicide. So I go to my first meeting and I'm like, well, I got some friends that call me at 3 a.m. We do this. When it got scary, we were going to breakfast every Sunday and hanging out with them. I got down there. You know what it was about? Funding. They didn't want my input on how to solve veteran suicide. They wanted my vote to increase their budget $2 or $3 million, excuse me. I get carried away sometimes. On a hotline, a suicide hotline. And you know what their big gripe about that is? If I call somebody and I'm suicidal, that somebody I talk to better be from Wyoming. Because if I talk to somebody from Pennsylvania, that won't be effective. Yet we take the money for all the national hotlines. And I do believe the lady or man in Pennsylvania would be just as effective as anybody in Wyoming. I don't think their first question is, I'm thinking about killing myself. Are you from Wyoming? Yeah. So the rodeo thing was a disgrace. But sometimes that stuff happens. Anything else? Well, thank you for putting up with me.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate it. I wasn't even going to mention this evening. We're talking about Medicare and Medicaid and what the doctors get paid for their services. And as you take a look at bills, I had a client of mine hand me his Medicare bill. The service provided from his doctor and medical center was $14,302. Now, this is the reason why doctors don't like Medicaid, Medicare, and all of that stuff. So the final tally was the insurance pending was $399.73 out of $14,302. This is what the doctors are putting up with. But they're not telling us that. How can you stay in business that way? You can't do it. And that's the reason why they want Medicare expansion, people. They want the government to control everything. They want to do away with commerce. What's your question?
Being that Medicare and VA2 doesn't pay all the bill you get billed for, can't they claim that as a capital loss?
They can, but they've got to have an income to claim it as a capital loss to keep their doors open. When you go from 14,000 bill down to receiving $400, you're going to claim all of that as a capital loss, and then how do you pay your employees and your property taxes? Yeah, but they're not making any money. You got to make money to appreciate a withholding.
And they say they're trying to help the veterans.
They're not. You drive home a good point. Now, it's late, but I got another one to tell you because back in the 70s and 80s, I dealt with Babcox and Wilcox. They participated in the construction of 14 coal mines in this basin. And as these coal mines finished up, Babcox and Wilcox wind up with products and completed operations liability for the product that they provided to all the coal mines. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to tell you a story about Stockman's Bank. Does anybody remember Stockman's Bank? Okay. They went into receivership by Resolution Trust. And I had Resolution Trust transfer their policies into my agency from all over the United States because these people travel. And I also had the attorney doing the depositions for Stockman's Bank in the trial for bankruptcy. Hotshot attorney out of Cheyenne. I still have him as a client today. He worked the depositions on that, and he told me, he said, you could listen to the recordings in the deposition. I'm telling you, Lyle, Stockman's Bank was not broke. They were solvent. Resolution Trust came in and said, we can name them insolvent because they've got the liability because they bought the municipal bonds on the utilities out Rawhide subdivision. So we're going to go ahead and rule them insolvent, and we're going to kill the liability. Babcox and Wilcox, how many times have they filed bankruptcy? Once? You know what that did? It undid every products and completed liability claim they had for decades. There's more reasons behind what happens out there than we're told. That's the game. Thank you for coming.